Hey guys, so if you didn't already see from my social media, mainly being Twitter, and I think I posted an Instagram story, I have started up this podcast together with one of my former coaches, Sashenka. He was my TSM coach for CRL Season 1, and both of us kind of recently got addicted to watching podcasts. So we kind of decided that we're going to try starting up our own podcast. It's just going to be, well, who knows what it'll turn into, but for now it's just going to be a mobile gaming podcast where we interview pro gamers and influencers in the Clash Royale community, and then hopefully eventually it can expand into something more, or maybe we'll abandon the project if we decide it isn't for us. But we just wanted to try it out for fun, and so far we've done 3 podcasts, but right now I'm just going to upload podcast 1, probably upload podcast 2 later this week, and podcast 3 later the next week. And obviously the first podcast isn't going to be as amazing as the second, and the second isn't going to be as good as the third, but every podcast we do is just going to get better. But either way, I think it's going to be a really good watch and really enjoyable if you just want to learn more about the professional Clash Royale players in the community.
What's up everyone, Sash here, and welcome to the first episode of Clash Origins. We have a good one for you today. It's about a guy who hails from a small town. His name is Vulkan. How did the final pick in Kings Cup 2 go on to become one of the best pros from North America? Find out next. What's up, Vulkan? How's your day been so far?
Hey, my day's been, not the best, not the worst. I had the Red Bull qualifiers today, the finals for North America, which were kind of disappointing because I thought it was going to be like last year where the finals were live, and I think a lot of the finals were even live in other countries, but North America kind of got the shaft, and we just had online qualifiers, and I didn't really prepare that much for it, so I didn't make it to number 1 in North America, unfortunately, but it's not the end of the world. Life goes on. The big CRL season, or the next CRL season, is the main event, so try not to take it too hard.
It's obviously tough that you didn't end up winning that Red Bull event, but you should hold yourself with higher guard because a lot of really amazing players didn't qualify. Not even from North America, actually, from Europe, from other regions. So the fact that you qualified and, did relatively well throughout the entire events process besides one day, I think you should be happy with where you're at. It's no big deal. It's not the end of the world, as you said, so you're good. Anyway, back to, our podcast. So where did you grow up in?
Where did I grow up in, man?
Yeah, where'd you grow up?
That reminds me when I was a little kid. I technically grew up near St. Louis, but when I was 10 years old, I moved to a city that's 3 hours south of Chicago. It has 200,000 people in the county, so not the biggest place, not the smallest place. I'd say it's a medium-sized city. And yeah, that's pretty much it. In Illinois, by the way.
How'd you enjoy living there in Illinois?
I like it a lot. I mean, especially since I grew up here, it just really feels like home for me. Going anywhere else just kind of feels unnatural because I've lived in the cornfields and that type of area all my life. But it's okay. The people here are relatively outgoing, but they're probably not as outgoing as if you went to some places in Europe, and they're not as antisocial as some other places, like some giant cities like New York. But it's not bad.
So while you were in Illinois or are in Illinois, did you ever play sports?
Yeah, so in high school, all throughout growing up, I used to play soccer, basketball, and baseball. I played a lot of other sports just for fun, but I never played on official teams. For basketball, I was pretty good at it, but I wasn't really tall enough, and I didn't have the jumping ability to compete out of just for fun. So I just did basketball for fun. Baseball I kind of got bored of, so I quit that, even though I was actually really good at baseball, but it was just way too boring for me. But soccer is one sport that I kind of stuck with all the way, and I played on a lot of travel teams for soccer, but I kind of ended my soccer career once I started my Clash Royale career. But fun fact, my brother's actually going to college for soccer, so it's in our genetics. And it's both of our favorite sports, probably.
That's really cool to hear. I'm also big on basketball, and I know I've played with you in the past, and you were always very good at it, and you seem pretty athletic. You hustled on the boards and stuff. So that's really cool. Besides sports, while you were in Illinois, did you have any other jobs besides being a Clash Royale player?
Yeah, so growing up, I kind of had a lawn mowing business. It started out, I would just...
Lawn mowing business?
Lawn mowing business, yes. It started out, What the? There's grass in LA? Nope, there isn't. Only sand. Yeah, where I come from, there's grass. Did you know that was a thing? It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Anyway,
really cool.
Yeah, it started out a summer. I just like power washed someone's fence for them, and then from there they started recommending me to other people, and like just that I was a hard worker. So then I bought a lawnmower, bought like a weed whacker, I bought a backpack gas powered leaf blower, which is like more powerful than a handheld one. And so I mowed a lot of lawns. I did a lot of raking. I did a lot of leaf blowing. I think I earned like, I don't really know the exact number, but like before I was 18, I already had earned like $20,000 from doing this yard work stuff. So it was a really good use of time, like, because it's a lot better paying than a fast food job.
Wow, Isaac. By the way, for anybody who doesn't know, his Vulkan's real name is Isaac. That's pretty insane, honestly, because when I was 12, I think I was doing absolutely nothing with my life. So the fact that you were like so, I don't know, financially minded and, realized that like you could make a lot of money doing something and you're 12 and you made your own freaking lawn mowing business, that's really impressive. I don't think that many people would ever think to do something like that. So really props to you for that.
Thanks, man.
Okay, no problem. So besides, your lawn mowing business, we all know you as a very good Clash Royale player. But before you got into Clash Royale, I just wanted to know what consoles did you play? Like, what consoles did you play? What games did you have a background in before Clash Royale?
Yeah, so it was mostly Nintendo. We had like a Nintendo 64 growing up, and then we got a Wii after that. By that time, like, I could have... A normal kid, when we had the Wii, would be playing like computer games and stuff, but my sister used to play too many video games, so my parents were like, oh, you're not allowed to own a computer, you're not allowed to play computer games, because they didn't want me to play it too much. So instead, I just played way too many Wii games and way too many, like, when I got an iPad, I played way too many games on my iPad. So I don't think it
Looks
actually...
like your parents are right.
Yeah, I mean... I was just as bad as her, but I was just a little bit more secretive about it, so they never realized.
Oh yeah, those days where we used to sneak and play video games, those were some fun times.
Oh yeah, you reminded me to tell my story. Yeah, so when I was a little kid, I don't know how old I was, maybe like 12, 13, 14, something like that. I guess not really even that little, honestly. When I was a medium-sized kid, I would like sneak into wherever they hid my, like, they would take away my iPad at night, so I wouldn't stay up all night playing the game. So there would be games where you have like a chest you have to unlock in the middle of the night or something. So I would set my alarm for like 3 a.m. I would wake up, I would sneak in, grab my iPad, like open the chest or whatever, and then I would go back to sleep, because that was the time in my life I never spent money on video games. So instead of spending money, I would just invest like a ton of time into them.
Yeah, time is money. That's pretty funny. How did you actually discover Clash Royale?
Yeah, so I used to... My neighbor, who I don't really even talk to that much anymore, even then I didn't talk to him. For some reason, though, he came over. He came over like one Christmas day, and he just was like, hey, there's this new game called Clash of Clans. He like forced me to download it, and I got addicted to it. Like, I played it 24/7 for the next week, because it was over Christmas break, so I literally had nothing to do.
Wow.
And so I played Clash of Clans. I was really good at that, and I was always like, man, I'm so good at this game. Like, I'm not trying to say this in a proud way, but I was always like, I wish there was some way to make it competitive, or some way to show people that I'm good at this game. But there just wasn't really back in the old Clash of Clans days. But then when Clash Royale came out, it was like this brand new game where the whole point of it was competition. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I can go in a game and beat everyone at it. And that was kind of my, and like how old was I? Like 15 or something? I was probably more competitive then than I am now. I just wanted to make a name for myself in like anything. I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. So I downloaded it, I got addicted right away. I played it like countless hours. I was always grinding like to be the highest player for my level. And yeah, we kind of did that for a while.
Yeah, I remember when I first started playing Clash, I just randomly found one of my classmates in school playing the game, and I downloaded it, and I just got super addicted. Me and my friend both downloaded at the same time. We were like in a race to see who could get on higher trophies, or we were just kind of like, friendly competition, not really like super aggressive about it. But I pushed to like 3,000 with level 8 or level 7 with like P.E.K.K.A, Hog, Freeze, Barbs, Elite. Not Elite, Elixir Pump. So it's some weird wacky deck. So those are some fun days. What did you immediately like the game so much to want to become a professional player?
I don't think my plan was ever really to become a professional player. Like I just wanted to be well known for being good at something. That's why I really enjoyed ladder pushing, because I was always like, well, for a long time I didn't want to spend money on the game, so I didn't have a max account really until just recently, or I didn't have my own account maxed. So it was all just kind of about making a name for myself, not really. I wasn't really thinking long-term professional.
So speaking of maxed accounts, I remember, back in your old days, you actually had the opportunity to play on some of them. How did you actually get that opportunity at first? Like, did you just randomly stumble upon some clan that gave you one, or how did it work?
Yeah, so
how did you get it?
So I grinded a lot of grand challenges. Like I spent like $100, and I grinded my account to where it was like level 11 or level 12 or something, probably level 11. I had like a couple max commons. I had like level 9 and level 10 and level 11 like other cards like Graveyard, Tombstone, Freeze. So I finished like 333rd in the world with underleveled cards. And so some dude named Raz Al Ghul from like Sandstorm/Arab Union noticed me, and he's like, dang, you're really good at the game, you want to play on this max account called Majid. And mind you, this is before, account sharing was like well known to be a bad thing. So I was like, yeah, dude, I want to play on Majid. And I played on Majid for a while.
Yeah, back in the day, account sharing was very, very common, and most of the CRL players, even, pretty much everybody in CRL has played on a maxed account. A lot of people even outside of CRL have played on a maxed account. So obviously this was a long time ago, and back then Supercell was seemed like they were more okay with it. But now that so many more people have maxed accounts, I believe that now they're really cracking down on it, because obviously it was always a rule, and it makes sense from a business perspective. How many hours a day did you play before you became a pro?
So it was kind of like, for some months I wouldn't play as much. Then other months I was playing like 6 hours a day or something crazy. It kind of would go on and off spurts, but yeah, not as much as I play now, but still like a lot.
Obviously, you had some maxed account experiences. You played the game a lot before that, to get to a better level. How about just competitive teams? What competitive teams were you a part of, on your journey to get to CRL?
So I don't know if I did any teams before Boreal MG, but the first one I can really remember was Boreal MG, and that was I had like a really good Canadian friend who like was like the owner of the clan, so we were kind of just doing that for fun, like nothing too serious. And that was actually the team that I was on when I won King's Cup, even though they weren't really doing anything for me, and I wasn't really doing anything for them. It was kind of just more for fun.
Were you also on any other teams?
Oh yeah, so after King's Cup, who dat, and I think you convinced me to join Sandstorm. There's kind of like, well, Nova also was trying to get me to join them, and so were a bunch of other semi-pro teams. But I decided, since I pushed ladder for Sandstorm, I would say loyal to Sandstorm. Even though looking back on it, I wouldn't say I regret my decision, because it didn't really matter. But it also wouldn't really have mattered if I joined Nova. Like, I probably would have earned, a couple $100 more in the long run. But didn't really make that much of a difference either way. So I competed on their team for like a couple months. We played, I think we won RPL North America. And then I don't think we won Worlds, but we had some good days. We did a decent amount of practicing, but like nothing too serious. And then after that, I joined TSM. So I really, most of my career has been ladder pushing, honestly, not like competitive.
Yeah, you know, you might be forgetting, but I think that Sandstorm team went nearly undefeated, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, we did. We went
that last
undefeated until we lost. We only lost one game all season. It's like
Sucks.
it's kind of disappointing. You have one bad day that you lose, but that's just how it works.
Yeah, you know, there's another college basketball team that had one of the most stacked rosters of all time, and they went undefeated too until the, I think, championship game or semi. So it happens a lot for some reason. It's really strange. Even like champions of sports have that happen to them. So that's really weird that always happens, but I guess it just happens, you know? Maybe people get too complacent or something. That's cool to hear about. So how did Kings Cup 2 happen? How did you decide to just randomly go to Atlanta from living in Illinois?
It honestly was pretty random, because what happened was the summer before Kings Cup, I was at summer camp and I was wrestling a guy for fun, just a friendly competition. I was a senior, and he broke my arm. Like,
wow, what a friendly competition.
Yeah, no. Well, what we were doing tap outs, and like both of us were trying to prove, you know, we were the strongest dude at camp, like the most feared. I don't even know. Like, looking back on it, it was kind of stupid. But both of us really wanted to win, and I wasn't about to tap out, even though I could obviously tell he was stronger than me. And like, it didn't really hurt. He was just bending my arm back, because it didn't hurt. So I just tried to muscle my way out of it, and my arm like snapped in half. So
Wow.
so that whole summer I had like nothing to do. So like I was active. I like to play a lot of sports. I actually had quit the game like 2 weeks before. I was like, I play this game way too much. I'm never playing it again for my entire life. But then I broke my arm and I was like, well, shoot, I have nothing to do. So I started playing the game again, and I ended up getting really good at it just because I played it. I was already good at it, but I used to only play more during graveyard. But I started watching a bunch of YouTube, and I started like watching a bunch of pro players, and I did a lot of ladder grand challenges, and I got really good at the game again. How
the heck did you play with like a broken hand? Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, I was playing on, so my arm was broken, but actually, like my humerus bone was like near your bicep, but because they messed up my radial nerve in surgery, I couldn't lift my left wrist. So I downloaded an emulator on the computer, and I would play with a mouse because it was too awkward to like play it one-handed, because I couldn't even hold my phone with my other hand.
What? That's insane.
So then
That's actually insane.
Kings Cup time, I was still, if you look back at Kings Cup, I was still in this like arm cast or this wrist cast, because I couldn't like physically lift my wrist up for like 7 months. So then at Kings Cup, I was like just getting to the point where I could move my fingers at least, so I could kind of hold my phone. And this is like this is sophomore year of college. The night before Kings Cup, well, I saw the tournament online, and I was like, my thought process was, if I get top 20 in this tournament, I'm gonna win $100, and it will cost me $130 to drive there. So worst case scenario, I lose $30. It's a good experience. Best case scenario, I win $20,000, and I can pay for the rest of my college, because at that point I only had like $500 in my bank account. So after my physics class, or my physics lab at like 6 p.m., I come home, I just get my stuff around, I'm about to leave, but I decided to tell my parents, I'm like, hey, I'm driving to Atlanta, Georgia to compete in this competition. And they're like, wait, what? Hold the phone, you can't do that. But I was just like, yes, I can. I'm 18. You can't stop me. So my mom, instead of arguing with me, well, they kind of tried to argue with me, but they kind of gave up because I knew it was hopeless. They're just like, okay, well, at least let my mom go with me. So I agreed to that. We drove overnight. It was like a 10-hour drive. We kind of took shifts. I ended up getting like 5-6 hours of sleep, which is, yeah, not that much for me. And it was bad sleep, because we're in a car, like a bumpy car. So I get there Kings Cup morning. It starts at 10 a.m. Pretty sleep deprived. I honestly don't even know how I qualified the first day. Like, I guess I was just running on adrenaline or something, because I was like, this is my one chance, to prove that I'm good, and this is what's gonna make my completely wasted summer worth it. So I qualified the first day. I got top 8, which already made me super excited. Like that was all I really wanted. I just wanted to get top 8. All I wanted was top 20. When I got to top 8, I was like dreaming. I was so happy. And then I ended up winning the whole thing the next day, which was just crazy.
You got to top 8. That's more than a dream come true for you. So how did it feel though when you were the last one getting picked? Obviously, there were some good players they were selecting from, but one of them, most notably, was Yu-Gi-Oh!, who at the time nobody knew who he was. He was just some random dude who showed up and did really well. Obviously, no disrespect to him. He turned out to be a really good person, great player, and has had a good career. He made it to CRL and actually traveled as a North American person to play in CRL Asia. So props to him. But obviously at the time, in my eyes, it would seem kind of disrespectful not to take you, before him or, before other people that were being selected. How did it feel to you?
So honestly, I didn't care because CWA and Surgical Goblin, they lost like the 2v2 tournament or something like that to get the first pick. So they had last pick. So I was like, they were the pro and YouTuber I wanted to be on a team with because I watched both of their YouTube channels. That's part of like how I got good at the game. So I was like happy to be picked last. I honestly was like, I was hoping I wouldn't be picked. But for me, it was like, sure, they're technically insulting me, but I didn't really care. I just wanted the money and the opportunity to meet them, honestly.
Yeah, and you got your wish. How was it, speaking of Surgical and Clash, how was it being on a team with Surgical, one of the most successful players, if not the most successful player in tournaments in Clash Royale's history, and being with Clash with Ash, one of the greatest YouTubers of all time in Clash Royale, for everything that he's done for the community and, just his enigma and everything else? How was it being on a team with them? Yeah,
so it's kind of funny because like back then they seemed like these super famous guys, and like now I know both of them like really like personally, which is really cool. But for me, when I met them, it just kind of surprised me. Like both of them are pretty genuine people, like in real life, and especially Ash. Like he's a really genuine guy, like really nice guy. Like he honestly, once I started winning games, he started to like me even more, because he's like, dang, this guy's winning me money. but then with Surgical also, like I really liked his mentality about like how he picks decks and how he like approaches the games. Because the night before we stayed up to practice till like 1 a.m. We practiced with like Audrey and Piadra, Atchin, and then whoever their YouTube person was. I honestly don't remember anymore. But we stayed up and practiced with them, and I was asking Surgical, I'm like, what decks do you think I should play, and he's just like, you know what, man, you should just play whatever you're comfortable with. Like you got here, there's no reason to snipe them, just use what you're good at. So I took his advice, and the next day, I got a couple decks from St. Bellicon actually, but they were all decks that like I was comfortable using. And the next day I just went up there, played the game I always played, and I did really well. So, but I think having like Ash and Surgical like encourage me definitely didn't hurt me, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that was really good advice by Surgical, because I think he's smart. He's a really smart player in person. So he figured, like you're going to be a wild card. You're going to be a surprise attack. So nobody will know how to scout you. And even back then, I don't think anybody was even looking to scout as much as they do nowadays. It was definitely a thing, but it wasn't as big as it is now. So that was some really smart advice by him, and it really sealed the deal for you guys. Who did you actually beat when you were on stage? I can't remember.
I think I beat Orange Juice. I beat Ace, I beat CMQ. Those are the main 3 I remember, but I think that might have been all I beat, but I feel like I beat like 1 or 2 more people also. Maybe, did I face Oxalate? I don't think I faced Oxalate. I don't even remember who the other people I beat are.
Those are some big names. Those people at that time, if not, and even today, those are all huge names. Ace, was one of the greatest players. It's sad he never played CRL, but it makes sense. I think he went to school. CMQ, is a legend in the community. He's always been just like good at everything. He can quit for like 2 years, come back, and he'll still be really good. He's just a naturally talented gamer. So yeah, that's really impressive. So obviously, after Surgical had another clutch performance toward the end. How did it feel when you guys actually won the $20,000? Like, how did you feel when you realized it?
It was like literally the best feeling of my entire life. Like that was probably the single like happiest day of my life. Just because like, especially I kind of like achieved my dream. Like I became well known in the community, and I also earned a lot of money, which I just wanted to use to pay for college, honestly. So yeah, it was really amazing.
2 for 2. How did your parents react to you winning 20,000?
Oh my gosh, my dad. So as soon as they didn't watch like the qualifier days, but as soon as I qualified for top 8 the next day, well, they didn't realize it was like what it was exactly. But the next day, they just knew that I already had won $2,000. So for them, they're like, wait a second, you can earn money from a video game. So my dad goes and he tells like his best friend at work, you know. My brother didn't even tell his friends. My friends were telling my brother, or his friends were telling him. So they all like gathered around, like my whole family and a couple other people gathered around a TV at my house, and they were like watching me. No, I think it was like they were gathering around a laptop, like watching me play King's Cup 2, even though they had no idea what was going on. But after that, like they became my biggest supporters. So it's just really cool how it turned out.
You should honestly give a big thank you to your parents, because I think without them and without that, you should also thank that guy who broke your arm, because I think without those 2 factors, I don't think you'd be here today, honestly.
No, I wouldn't.
You know, King's Cup 2 is amazing, and I think it really propelled you forward into your more successful, more well-known CRL career. How did you feel, however, when CRL Season 1 was announced? Like, what was your thoughts initially?
I mean, initially I was very skeptical. Like I didn't even want to play in the league until honestly you kind of convinced me to play in the league, because you wanted to build a team with me, and you're like, wait a second, this is an unknown player who has potential to be good. So yeah, I was skeptical, but you kind of talked me into it.
Yeah, thank you, Vulkan. That means a lot coming from someone as world renowned like you.
Oh wow, cool story, bro.
Did you have a lot of offers when the season was announced?
I had like an offer for Complexity, which I kind of, not really an offer, I just kind of talked to them. I kind of turned down like most of the teams that I talked to, because I was thinking like I gotta stay loyal to Sandstorm, and you were like the leader of Sandstorm, so I was like, gotta stay loyal to Sashenka. And
man, that means a lot. But looking back at it, maybe it wasn't the right decision, but at the end of the day, I mean, we had a lot of success, so I think it was.
Yeah, it wasn't See, the thing is, there's not really a right and wrong decision. There's just like any decision you make for joining a team is going to be okay, but maybe there's like a little bit better of a decision. Like maybe earn a little bit more money. I don't know. It's hard. Like, even if I would have joined Complexity, that doesn't necessarily mean we would have won. It just means I would have joined Complexity, you know? So, yeah. Or, I mean, I did join them Season 2, but not Season 1. And then, like, I'm sure some other teams, I think, like, probably half the teams in the league, like, at least contacted me and I talked to them. But I did end up going with TSM.
Yeah, you know, when the league first came out, Complexity was the first team that actually hit me up. You know, then Mobile Mac comes along, of course, and takes the spot. And obviously, that was a great decision for them, because he's really impactful to the community, as you probably know, since you've, you know, worked with him. And I actually hit up my boy, the God RF, and told him, he was one of the first people I told about that. I was like, yeah, look, Complexity, this like huge esports team hit me up, and I want you to be on a team with me. And I kind of regret, looking back at it now, I regret not following through with the God RF and trying to recruit him, because I feel like having him somewhere within that roster, we would have probably won the whole thing. But, you know, it is what it is, and we just have to move on and learn from our mistakes and learn from other people's mistakes. So, yeah, hopefully maybe down the line he'll agree to be on one of these episodes. What do you think is the most important tip you could give anyone who aspires to be a CRL player or a pro Clash Royale player?
I would say, first of all, know your limits. Like, don't waste your time if it's not going to happen, because if you're not good at Clash Royale, chances are you're going to be good at something else. But if you really are like, man, I'm good enough at this game, I can do it, then I would the smartest way to do it. It's kind of what I did. I grinded grand challenges until I had like a close to max account, and then I played ladder enough to get noticed by other people. So I would just say, yeah, grinding. If you're able to finish high on ladder, and then you're gonna get noticed by someone. And then once you get noticed by someone who's like good and kind of well known, or someone who just has like pull in the community, then you can start branching out and learning more decks, and it's like really good. But just showing that you can master a deck to the point where you can finish high in ladder is really impressive. It's like most of the CRL pros, they can pick up a deck and within 1 month, they can, if they one trick it for a whole season, they could probably get like a top 10, top 20 finish on ladder. Maybe not most of them, but like a lot of them could. Even like top 30 is pretty good. So yeah, just showing that you have like that skill level and dedication is just really important.
So back to TSM, how was it actually living in a team house? How was that experience like for you?
It was kind of crazy. Like, well, it was like at the start, it was just me and Air Surfer. And then it went to me, Air Surfer, and Firewolf. Then it went to me, Air Surfer, Firewolf, and Sam, because Firewolf didn't get there for 2 weeks and Sam didn't get there for like half or like 2 months or something, half the season. And it, like, honestly, those
how was it being a teammate? Actually, how was it being a teammate with those four boys? How was it being a teammate with Sam, Air Surfer, and Firewolf? You can go.
I was the oldest one there. I was 19. Sam was 18. Air Surfer was 17, and Firewolf was 16. So there was definitely like a little bit of a maturity difference, because I was there, trying to take everything super seriously, and then the rest of them were not like necessarily, but like in their own ways, trying to have fun and kind of goofing around a lot. So there was definitely that element where like it was fun, but also we had a job to do. I mean, Firewolf was like, he was the youngest one, so obviously he was the most. He didn't want to practice the most. So okay. Firewolf was kind of like, he's kind of a goofy guy. He's kind of funny. He's really talented at the game. It's kind of crazy. It didn't really show in his CRL games, but on ladder, he would, like, one example is he picked up Golem after like never playing it in his life, and within a month he finished like top 10 global on ladder, just like after never playing Golem before in his entire life. So his natural talent was kind of insane, and he's just really like a funny guy. And then Air Surfer, a little bit more quiet. I think everyone gives him like a lot of crap for being quiet, but he actually talks like quite a bit. Especially the more I got to know him, like the more out of his comfort zone he came, and the more he started talking. And he's really funny because he has like these catchphrases that I can't even remember what they are off the top of his head. Just like the way he says some things, it just makes you laugh. Like he's kind of a goofball, but most people who know him like really like him for that.
He has like a dry sense of humor. Like one time I remember during the CRO World Finals a few months ago, we were up in on the second floor, and we saw Kay Valifar, the SK Gaming coach, and Morton. They were like walking to some weird area that we didn't know where it was, and Air Surfer was like, "Oh, they're going to some secret meeting," or like he said something funny like that, and we all started laughing. Like he always says some like weird, funny, dry humor stuff, and it makes everybody laugh.
Yeah, if we can convince them to get on this podcast, hopefully we can see some of that like live.
Yeah, that'd be really funny.
And then Sam is like, he was kind of was, I think we would have got second or first potentially if he would have been there the whole season, because he was kind of like the core of our team. He gave me even like a lot of decks, and even when he came, like he had that weird deck, that weird barbarian hut deck. They called him the mad scientist. So he's a really good player. Like he was really good for game planning with, but also he was also kind of a goofball. Like I would say I was the only person on the team who wasn't really. I'm more of a serious person, but the three of them were just kind of like jokesters. So it was definitely fun to be around them.
Yeah, good times. Back in those days, before CRL started, the public, the general pro players in the league and everybody else, they kind of doubted your ability to be a good player. Like, it was very evident by what I was hearing. Did that kind of motivate you to prove them wrong and show everybody that they were making a big mistake by counting you out?
I mean, kind of. The thing is, everyone else doubted my ability, but I didn't really doubt my ability because I kind of, I always knew that I never really took the game that seriously. I never spent the time that I needed to be really good at it. So, and I'd played against all the other pro players, and I'd watch them play, and sometimes I'd be like when I would watch like Surgical Goblin, I'd be like, why did he do that? That's not the smartest decision. So the 6 months before, I just spent like a lot of time training and practicing. Like I would play like 5-6 hours a day while I was still going to school. And even in like in the summer, I had like a summer before to train, so I played like most of the summer. So I got really good at the game, but yeah, like I always knew my potential, even if other people didn't know it.
What was one thing that you really enjoyed about being on TSM?
Just like being on a name brand team was like really cool. I feel like not many people can say they were on an organization with like a multi-million with millions of followers. So that was definitely cool. And then also just living on my own in a house with like 3 other guys, like it has its ups and downs, especially when it's like people from different countries. Even we had 3 different countries there, so it was definitely a good experience to look back on.
What was the most heartbreaking loss during that first season that you could think they could remind us of?
I mean, the most heartbreaking loss was just losing to Complexity. I actually had a really good game that day. It kind of stunk because, well, we swept Cloud9 against Complexity. I had a really good game, but Sam had an off day that day, which I can't say I blame him because I had off days before that. So, but also we put way too much pressure on Sam. We made him play 4 best of 1s, 4 best of 3s that day. And I was only playing 2 best of 3s, so we should have done an even workload. That was kind of a mistake, looking back on it. I should have done 2 best of 3s, and then he should have done 2 best of 3s, or no, I should have done 3 and he should have done 3. That was just kind of like a decision-making mistake. He kind of ran out of decks to play.
Yeah, I think that the real thing that happened was, it wasn't that he had an off day. It was just that they scouted him very well, and they realized that that Pompeo balloon deck literally counters all the decks that he uses because he was just relying on Barbhood so much. So I think that was the problem, and I think the fact that we didn't identify that going in is the reason why we lost ultimately. But it's okay. I mean, we still had a great season. It could, if we had Sam, as you said, I think we could have easily made it to the World Finals. Nobody doubts that. And actually, a lot of people had us as their favorites to get to the World Finals. So I don't think I would think we did overall, a good job.
No, I agree. Because if he would have been there the whole season, then chances are we wouldn't have even had to face Cloud9 because we would have already been second or first in the seeding.
Yeah. And
that would have been a huge advantage because we wouldn't have had to show our decks, and then Complexity wouldn't have been able to scout us because they knew all of our decks.
Yeah, for sure. What was the most amazing win that season that we had, or that you had?
Oh, me personally?
Yeah, what was your favorite win of that season 1?
Probably the one against Adrian Piadra, because I think we had 3. I don't even remember exactly. I remember beating CMQ in the finals, and I remember facing Adrian Piadra. I used a really weird Barb Hut deck that Sam gave me. Did I have Mirror in it? I might have even had Mirror in my deck. I honestly don't remember at this point. But we just had some really close games, and I think that was a really fun one.
Yeah, looking back on it, I think it was amazing, Cloud9, and just kind of get revenge because, as we both know, Wings was a huge part of our recruiting process. We wanted to build a team with him and you, and then last minute he kind of bailed And looking back on it, of course, he made the right decision because on paper, Cloud9 just had an absolutely phenomenal team. But we were still kind of butthurt because we had hoped that he would be on our team. But, we're still friendly with Wings. He's a great guy and amazingly talented player who I believe will have a great season, great bounce back season in this next season of CRL. But yeah, like, did you ever think about that when we were sweeping Cloud9? Like, dang, imagine if Wings joined us. Like,
well, dude, in the season, like, I think 2 of my losses were to Wings. Like, he brought down my win rate from, like, it would have been like 70% or something if I hadn't lost to him. So, I mean, I was just happy to get my revenge because I think he swept our team twice in King of the Hill. So that victory was like a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, after that season ended, it was overall a great season, and it's upsetting that we didn't make the World Finals, but it was definitely a good start to your career. How's free agency like? Like, how did it feel to be even more well known than before and have teams just? I'm pretty sure like a lot more teams wanted you on their team after that first season. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's definitely true. I had so many teams reach out to me. It was to the point like where I didn't even know who to say yes to. The thing is, nobody was offering me, like $1 million to join their team. Like, there's pretty much everybody was offering me like around the same salary. So it was just like, well, who do I join? Like, I actually had no idea. There wasn't like anything really sticking out. I talked to so many people. I was asking people in line chat, like, what team do I join? I don't know what to do. But I ended up sticking with Complexity and joining them just because I thought that all the players on their team had like a similar mentality to me, hard work over skill. So I liked their mentality, and I thought their organization was really professional. So that's why I chose them.
Yeah, speaking of Complexity, how was it being a teammate with Colton, Air Surfer, Razor, Adrian, Piedra, and being coached by Kyle? I know we already talked about Air Surfer, but how did I guess just talk about how different he was in season 2, if there was any difference. So you could start with Colton if you.
Oh, you mean if Air Surfer was different in season 2? Yeah. So Air Surfer, I mean, he had different. Air Surfer kind of adapts to the people around him, so he had different people around him. He was a little bit less like on the crazy side, like he was a little bit because everyone else on the team was more of an introvert, so he didn't make quite as many jokes, but he's still the same Air Surfer, And then yeah, Colton is like he's actually kind of a shy guy, but like if he doesn't know you, but once he gets to know you, he's like super nice. He's one of those guys who if you ask him to help you out, he'll do like anything to help you out. So I really enjoyed like being around him and like talking to him. He's probably like the closest friend I have on that team. And then Razor's also like nice. It's kind of funny because Razor would be like, dude, I like to have debates, I like debating with people. So him and Colton, they would debate about all sorts of things. Like they debate about politics, about like anything you can think of. So it's kind of always funny listening to them go at it. But also, Razor was kind of the most like, I'd say he was the most introverted person on the team. But even then, like he doesn't like staying in his room all the time or something. He likes getting out. He's big into Ultimate Frisbee, so he did a lot of Ultimate Frisbee, and yeah, overall a pretty good guy. And we got Adrian Piedra. He's kind of like the funny man of the team. Obviously, he's like really good at the game. He's not just all fun and jokes, but especially like season 2, I bonded pretty well with him. Overall, he's a pretty good guy. Season 3, we ended up, well, yeah, we'll go to season 3 later, and then yeah, Kyle he was a pretty good coach. Got the team together. He doesn't like conflict, so he always made sure he tried to make sure nobody was like hating each other or arguing with each other. Tried to keep the peace. Yeah, overall he's a pretty good guy.
How many hours did you practice when you were on Complexity?
So we went to Dallas a month before season 2 for training, and so there we were practicing like 2 hours as a team, and then it was kind of like I had nothing else to do, so I'd pretty much practice or watch Clash Royale the rest of the day. We spent a lot of time like helping each other in the Bren Chong Cup, especially me and Adrian. Like both of us tried to like scout our opponents beforehand and get good decks, and then we'd like practice matchups we expected. So we practiced quite a bit together. And then once we got to the season, I mean, we were kind of practicing like the same amount as before. The only difference, the thing is about being like there in person, on game days, it kind of takes up like your entire day because we had to like drive an hour and a half to and from the studio. So we ended up like being in the car 3 hours per game day. And then we're like car legged when we get home. We just don't feel like playing anymore. We actually would lose like 2 days out of the entire week on game days, so we'd only be able to practice like 5 days a week. But with that, so then on those days we were practicing, we'd be practicing like 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. We'd be playing the game like a lot.
Obviously, you had a big jump on your win rate, or at least a noticeable jump upwards in season 2 compared to season 1. What do you think you did differently to kind of boost your win rate and just become a overall, better player?
Actually, I don't think
really helped you.
I don't think my win rate was necessarily that much higher. It's like maybe 2% higher, but the difference was the competition in the entire league was just better. So what I did just during like the off season is I just trained archetypes. Like I trained like 2.6, and just like I trained Hog a lot. I don't even know what all I trained, but I just like trained specific archetypes. So then the month or two before like the season started, I kind of focused more like on matchups and learning the meta. But then when CRL started, because I trained all those archetypes, I was pretty versatile, but I just like spent a lot of time focusing like on matchups I expected and what the meta was, and so I focused a lot like on scouting my opponents and playing really smart decks.
Now let's move on to season 3. Obviously, you guys didn't achieve your goal of making it to the World Finals. Things didn't turn out as well as before. Can you please elaborate a little bit on why that is? Like, why didn't your team have as much success in the following season, in season 3, and why did your win rate kind of get impacted?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say like we kind of approached the season the wrong way. So at the end of season 2, we like reflected on our season as a team. We talked about what went wrong, and the thought process. And it was kind of like my idea. I'm like, well, we kind of got lazy towards the end of season 2. We didn't, not really lazy, but we were just all kind of like burnt out because we kind of overworked ourselves, like because we were practicing like 10 hours a day. Like we were just practicing so much. We didn't like practice 2v2 as much towards the end of the season, and that kind of like the win rate suffered because of that. So the thought process was, well, we need to create a competitive atmosphere where all of us are motivated to keep improving and not get complacent when we're winning. So the idea was we wanted to switch our 2v2, that way we'd all get, more competitive. And we switched it to me and Colton, and then Adrian and Razor. And like in practice, it seemed like it was going well. Like we were winning honestly, I think Razor and Adrian were beating me and Colton more in practice. But then when we got to stage, well, especially Adrian and Razor, Adrian would get a little bit nervous on stage, so he wouldn't be able to speak like English as well on stage as in practice. So he kind of had like it's like at a different. He wasn't able to perform on stage just under the pressure. And that's not to say anything against Adrian, because it's amazing that he can speak English fluently. Like I can't speak like a lick of Spanish. I only speak English. So the fact that he's able to speak 2 languages well is already impressive. But because of that, and then also because when we were practicing against each other, like if one 2v2 duo is winning more, the other one might get mad or something. And it just kind of created like, not really a toxic atmosphere, but like, I don't really know a better word. So kind of a toxic atmosphere where like we weren't helping each other out as teammates as much as we should have, because we were competing against each other. So it ended up causing more problems than it solved. So then halfway into the season, we're like, okay, we gotta change this, because this is not working out. So we switched back to our initial 2v2 duo, and that was doing really well. We actually started winning like games after that. Like, I don't even think we won any games the first half of the season. But then we started winning games, so we switched up our 2v2 duo, and everything was kind of getting back to where it was in the previous season, but it was just like too little too late. I think by the end of the season, like I started out with a 30% win rate. I ended with a 50% win rate. So there's definitely improvement, but yeah, it was just too little too late.
Yeah, usually when teams are winning, everybody's happy, everyone's having a good time. But as soon as you start losing, that's when the adversity hits. Happens commonly in sports, happens commonly in everything else. So, you just have to go in with a mindset of like, you're not only going in there with people that are going to always act the same way. Like, when you win, everybody's going to be happy. When you lose, people are going to act differently. So you just have to all come together and realize that this is a team thing. Not even the best of the best always win every single game. You're always going to have an off day. It's, luck is involved, everything else is involved. You just have to keep a steady mindset and just push each other forward regardless of what happens.
Yes, and also I will say, like, it's not any one person's fault. Like, it was kind of like everyone made the decision as a team, and so we rose as a team, we fell as a team. I don't want to blame any one person for it.
Yeah, because it was a team thing. It wasn't a one person thing. So that's you've had quite the successful career in CRL. That's all really amazing, and certainly, at least I personally hope that you continue. But that remains to be seen, of course, based on what you decide. So speaking on YouTube, I was curious, just like, what convinced you to make a YouTube channel, and kind of like, yeah, who convinced you to make a YouTube channel, or did you just yourself decide to make one?
I mean, I always kind of wanted to have a YouTube channel. Like, I wanted just that exposure. I thought it'd be cool, like, to be like, oh, he's a YouTube. But I never did it because I didn't think anyone would watch. But then after King's Cup 2, Ash was like, dude, if you make a YouTube channel, everyone's going to watch you. You'll get so many views. He's like, you should do it. You'll earn so much money from it. I was like, dang, man, I got to do this. So I started up the YouTube channel. Obviously, he wasn't the only person that told me. A ton of other people were, like, private messaging me and being like, you should start a YouTube channel. But Ash was the person I saw in person who definitely was the biggest influence there.
That's cool. So is it easy to have a YouTube channel?
No.
How much time does it take you to make your videos?
Oh my gosh, definitely not. Like, in a perfect world, if everything went right when I was to record a YouTube video, it should only, like, theoretically take me an hour per video. But honestly, maybe even 2 hours. I guess if I had a supercomputer, only an hour. But the thing is, a lot of times when you record, like, something ends up going wrong. Having a YouTube channel is really not that easy. If it was a perfect world and everything just worked, it would probably only take me like an hour to make a video. But the problem is, a lot of times when I try to record, because I didn't buy like all the the most expensive equipment in the entire world, like something goes wrong. And even though I'm actually using top of the line software, like sometimes when I record, my audio messes up, or the footage is like laggy, doesn't save a file or something, or I just like lose a bunch of games in a row, and it's really hard to play with the pressure on you. So I mean, I don't want to like complain too much about it, but it is a lot of work, and I would say, like, even for me now, it takes 2 hours to actually record and edit it. It takes me like a couple more hours to push ladder to the point where I can record a video. And then, like, when I make the thumbnail, well, I just started making my own thumbnail, so this will probably get quicker. But the first thumbnail I made took me like 6 hours, and then now they're taking me like 2 hours. But I think my most recent one only took me like 30 minutes, so I'm getting quicker. The goal is that soon I'll be able to do it really quickly. So YouTube is a learning process. Like, when you start it out, it takes forever, but the idea is that the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the quicker it gets.
That's really great to hear about YouTube. Most people don't have the dedication to commit to something like that. So major props to you, as always, for having a YouTube channel.
Thanks, man.
No problem. So I have a couple more questions for you before we end it off. One of them is, do you have any quotes that you live by? Or maybe you don't, but do you have any
No.
single quote? No?
Work hard, eat a lot of food.
Okay. We'll write that one down.
I just made that up.
Very nice. Besides skill, what else is really important to having a successful career in Clash Royale or CRO?
I guess, easy answer is hard work. I mean, it's really like, you can have all the skill, you can have all the raw talents in the world, but if you don't practice the matchups and learn the meta, then you're not going to be good. One thing that can be said is you can actually be really naturally talented and like have someone help you choose your decks and decide that. So that could actually be like a really quick shortcut, but someone has to be doing the deck selection and the matchup like advice.
What about, for example, personality or confidence on stage? What can you talk about? Can you talk about a little bit about those two topics? How important are they?
I mean, yeah, both of them are hugely important. Like, so for personality, you need to be able to talk to your other teammates. So you have to be able to communicate with people. You don't necessarily have to be an amazing talker, but you just have to be able to know when you need help and to know how to help other people, because CRL really is a team event. If you try to win it by yourself, you're probably not going to win or have a good win rate, because everyone else in the league, or all the best players in the league, have people helping them out. So you need to be able to communicate with other people. And then yeah, playing on stage it's not that easy. But you have to try to not think about it. If you let the pressure get to you, you're gonna play a lot worse. Then the other thing is, even if you're one of the people who doesn't let it get to you, like, it's still gonna affect you even the tiniest bit. So sometimes you can even make like deck selections and play decks that are easier to play, just because if the nerves are gonna get to you, you have to be able to play a deck where if you make a mistake, it's not that big of a deal.
That's really important insight, and I hope anybody who's aspiring to get to CRL is listening and taking note of that. So thank you for that input. A couple more questions here. So who is a player who has inspired you in Clash Royale, and why?
I mean, the cliche answer is Surgical Goblin, but it's also my answer, because it's just like, whoever is the biggest name, the most followers, the most awards won, which is Surgical Goblin, I think that's the dude that most people aspire to be, because you just want to be the best. And right now, Surgical Goblin's the best, so probably most people would say him. The only reason you wouldn't say him is just because you're jealous of him and you don't like him. But I would have to say, yeah, Surgical Goblin is my answer.
Yeah, he's definitely the greatest player in CR tournament history, because he's not only just naturally talented at this game, he also takes practicing extremely seriously, and his methods of just practice in general are just very unique. And I think a lot of people kind of underestimate that. Like, he's very smart. He's not going to go around and tell people what he does to practice and kind of how to improve, but if you kind of follow what he does, you could also make that into your own blueprint. But major props to Surgical, like, for all the accomplishments he has. I hope that he would possibly do an episode with us here down the line. It would be really fun listening to some of his stories. So yeah, it's a good answer. How about just like a person in general? Like, maybe it could be from Clash Royale, like a person who's not a player who has inspired you, or like a person in your life. Could you name anybody else who, has inspired you or motivated you to be a better person in your life?
I mean, I would just have to say my dad, because he's like a really great dude. But also, like, anytime I ever, need any like life advice or anything like that, I can ask him for it. That's also another cliche answer. Like, a lot of people say their dad, but it really is true. Like, there's no there's no adult I look up to as much, literally and figuratively, because he's 6'5", as much as him.
Wow, I didn't know he was that tall. That's cool.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get his height.
Oh yeah, big deal. You're like 5'11". I don't think that makes a difference.
Only 6 inches short.
So to end it off, what are your goals for 2020, and what's next for you?
Man, my goals are just to enjoy 2020, and feel like actually accomplish something. But what that's gonna look like for me is, right now I'm kind of trying to decide if either I want to go back to college or if I want to do another season of CRL. I'm gonna kind of explore both routes. Like, I kind of wanted to apply for some internships here for engineering, so I'm just gonna do that, and then from there I'm gonna decide like what's the best option for me going forward. I don't want to quit CRL necessarily, like, because I don't think I'm good enough to play in it, but I need to figure out if I know I'm good enough. I need to figure out if I have the motivation to continue, because if I'm not willing to put in the time that it takes to be one of the best players in CRL, then I'd basically just be wasting my time. So that's kind of where my thought is at, or where my head is at right now.
That's a good mentality. Vulkan, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I just had one last question for you.
Yeah.
Would you like to do this podcast with me?
Oh, wow.
Like for future episodes?
Oh, what an idea. Wasn't expecting that one. You know what, man? I think I'll have to say yes.
Let's go.
Cringe.
All right, thank you everybody so much for listening. It's a great honor to be able to have everybody listening to what we're talking about, and we're going to start doing this very frequently. We're going to try to get everybody, all the top players, and hear about their lives and stuff. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to Clash Origins, and I hope you have a great rest of your day or night or wherever you may be.
Vulkan out.